That seems to be working. All right, so our Twitch alerts have a problem. They have a problem. They don't always work. So today we're going to fix our deployment of them because I've been running them on the Mac Mini that does the streaming and it just refuses to update. It refuses to get the new stuff. So I was actually just running the Rust code on it, and this is becoming an untenable solution. It can still run the front end. Yeah, it can still run the front end little app that needs to run. We could host the front end somewhere if we wanted to. It's just a little static thing. I think we'll just run the front end on the Mac Mini, but we're going to run the back end somewhere else today. Now, I'm thinking I do it locally, but we could do it on any Kubernetes cluster, really. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to get into Eddington. And we're going to get into Eddington. So let's see. Actually, maybe I need to cone of silence this. Might need to cone. One second. I'm cone of silencing just in case. Cone of silence. There we go. I don't know my cube config if it's. I know I'll have the kind cluster in there. Yeah, okay. Okay, good, good, good. We uncone of silence. There we go. I always forget this. I don't switch clusters that often. Set context is what we need. What? Oh, one second, one second. It is use context that I need to set. There we go. Hey, Monta, how are you? How are you doing? All right, cool. So what I was doing really quickly here, oh, cool. You fixed the auth? Awesome. We might give that a test in just a second. So what I was trying to fix really quickly is the Twitch alerts that we worked so hard to make just aren't working on the Mac Mini. And I hate that I have this thing and it just isn't work. It's that the backend doesn't want to run on it for reasons, for really weird reasons too. Um, like on the A1 Mac Mini that does the streaming, it thinks that I need to pass this, even though it only requires the OAuth service if you don't give it a token. But we're giving it a token. And so I have to go like and modify the code by like deleting stuff, which is really gross whenever I do an update. And so since we did an update, now it's broken. And I tried to edit the code with just like Vim that's not really set up to do Rust, and it was just a pain. So what I was thinking we were going to do really quickly is just make a container for this and start running it on the Kubernetes cluster that I have. I can either do that or we can really quickly spin up something in Linode. Linode has like effectively a free tier. I think I can run a cluster for $5 a month. So we might do it in Linode. Exactly. It hasn't ever been set up to be run in the Docker yet. No Docker file. No Docker file. So actually, I don't think I've ever made a Docker file for a Rust program. That's maybe horrible of me. I don't think I've actually ever made a Docker file for a Rust program, so we'll see how this goes. All right, let's see. I am almost positive there's a Rust build container. Rust build container. There's got to be. All right, cool. From Rust. We'll just do from Rust. Do they do multi-stage builds? Ah, here we go. Here we go. That's what I wanted to see. Let's adapt this. Perfect. From Rust as builder. Okay, so we're gonna install. No, we need to install. Okay, let's actually work out this command because it's not cargo install. Because we have workspaces. So let's, I don't know what that path would be. Most of the project of Rust never made it to production, so I can understand. That's hurtful words there, Monta. Hurtful words. This has been kind of running in production, but just doing it poorly. Just poorly. The code is like super stable and just runs, but the Mac Mini doesn't like it. Oh, I know you didn't mean it in a bad way. I know. We're doing this right here. I don't know if this is. I don't think this is quite the right. All right, see you, Monta. I think we want Ben. So we're gonna try that. Okay. So let's see. Then they're just calling update, install. We could do a slimmer one than Bullseye, but I think Bullseye is a great starting point. Um, Installing the extra runtime dependencies. That's interesting. I'm gonna assume that that's what they need. Um, yeah. Extra. This is a method to create. You might get to save another 60 megabytes. We'll just stick with the Debian. All right. And then this should be Twitch alerts. And this should be it. Let's give it a shot. What is it doing? What is this doing? What is it sending to the Docker build daemon? I am confused. I am confused by this. Pretty confused. All right. So when we go to run this, we're going to need some stuff in the environment. We're just going to make a deployment right here in this folder. New folder. Is that what we want to do? How's Linode? Let me log into Linode really quickly. Silence off. All right. Deploy an app. No, we need to create a compute, create a Linode, understand billing payments. No, I just want to create a Kubernetes. They've changed this since the last time I saw it. All right, Kubernetes. Create a cluster. Select a region. The greatest region in all of the United States, Chicago. Chicago. Cluster label. Twitch alerts. 126, why not? Dedicated CPU, shared CPU, high memory. I think shared is fine. $12 a month for 3 of these things. Wait, is it one CPU and that seems good. Does shared mean burstable? My goodness, it's so expensive. They don't have like a $5, no $10 ones. guess not. I guess not. All right, good enough then. If that's the case, we're just going to do this locally, and it will be fine. No, not there. New folder. Let's see. We need let's create a service or two. Let's create a service or two. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We failed. Found a virtual manifest. This was what I was worried about. We have a workspace. So, like, we can run this with cargo run this. And we give it the bin. So I thought cargo install should work somewhat similarly. Yeah, see, this worked. It's gonna say that GPT key is required. Get it. I didn't give it to it. So this works, but this here didn't work. The cargo run install bin monolith. Let's, instead of trying to use, let's try build. Let's try this right here, but with build. I've never actually used the cargo install keyword before. I don't know why I tried run. So that worked. And that outputs to... Where does that output the file to? Where did it build it? Oh, okay. I see. So we have it here. All right, so that's not exactly what we want to do. We want to do... We're going to compile it for release. Okay, cool. And then this should... Put it right here. Perfect. All right, so then here we're just going to go build bin monolith. Release. And then here, all we have to do is from builder, user, local, cargo bin. Okay, so this is where it will just change a little bit, because what we'll need to do is basically pull this from user source Twitch alerts. You know what? I'm going to rename this to app. just so it's not confusing. App. Then we are in target release. Target release. Fantastic name. And we're going to copy that to this user local bin as Twitch alerts and run as Twitch alerts. I think that's right. I think. We'll see. We'll see if it works. Okay, this is not right. This is not right. This is horrifying. What is this? What is this? I have never seen this. Like, I know what it means, but why the crap are we doing this like 22 gigabytes for this? Well, I think. There's no extra file. This is just some Rust code. There's not 22 gigs in here. So if it was like transferring all of this into the Docker daemon, like I would get it. There's not 22 gigs here. What am I missing? I'm sorry, 23 gigs. And if there is 23 gigs here, 1 second, we've screwed something up. We can add target to the Docker narg, but this is just some build stuff, which should be fairly small. The front end has a image. It has a image. So yeah, we have this. This SVG is fairly small. This is fairly terrifying. I think I have screwed something up. Because now it used to go pretty quickly right into the building. Okay, I messed something up. Let's figure out what's going on here, because this is. So hey, for all of you that just joined, we're gonna get to Eddington in just a little bit because I know that's your guys' favorite. But I did want to fix Twitch alerts. We worked to make some pretty awesome Twitch alerts for you all, and then they haven't worked on the Mac Mini. The Mac Mini A1 just doesn't like running Rust. I never packaged it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it packaged. We're going to get it deployed to production. And that way it's there running on something that's meant to actually run stuff instead of something that's meant to look good. So yeah, we run the stream from the Mac Mini, but it doesn't like running Rust. So we're going to run the back end somewhere else. We're going to do that. And then we'll get to Eddington. I just have had a little bit of problems packaging this. This has, yeah. How's everyone doing so far? All right. The sound of silence. All right, so let's look here. Let's do LL. Let's look here. We're looking at kilobytes. Everything is in kilobytes. That's what I was thinking. We have nothing large in here. Right? All right, so we could look at the build directory. I can't imagine the build directory being anything else. Why is this doing this? I mean, it is working, but it's just making the Docker build take forever. Also, I really need to learn to use terminal multiplexer. I really need to learn to use one of those. I get it now. I never used to know why people use those. I get it now. I use these tabs, which use my fingers to change between. I really need to actually work on setting mine up. All right, let's figure out. All of these are in kilobytes. We got some megabytes here. That was not the best command. Okay, so there is 22 gigs in here. Somewhere we have 22 gigs of something in this repository, which is horrifying. What did we do and when? It's all just Rust, right? I know. I know one place where there's some stuff that we store stuff, but it can't be, can it? Can our alerts DB? Our alerts DB cannot be that big of a file. It's an SQLite database, right? Right? Okay. Let's write this a little bit better. Okay. So let's see. We need this to be given to us in a little bit better stats. Um how do we want to do that? We can do ls, right? So we could just do ls dash l, and this is going to give us our alerts DB, which, yeah, super small. Got it. All of these are super small. We'll get it into kilobytes. Like I thought, that doesn't. The only problem is this doesn't give us inside folders. So as you'll see, every folder is 4 kilobytes because that's like the reference to the folder. So that doesn't give us inside. But I think we can do like AL, right? That should give us inside the folders. Can we do ALH? No. Did the Docker work? Yeah, the Docker worked. We got the Docker. Okay, well, we had to update the Docker after you left, Monta. So, oh man, extra runtime dependencies didn't work. So we got our portion of the code working. We had to update it to this cargo build. So we're building, because we're in a workspace, it's not just one Rust project. We went to build instead of install. Install was not working with the bin flag. And then we passed it release. We updated the references to that. So I think all of that worked. Now we're doing this right here because, well, quite frankly, because they told us to. They said that no, some shared libraries may be needed to be installed as shown with the installation of extra runtime dependency above, on the line above. I think that's broken. So you know what? We're going to Oh, you know what? I'm an idiot. They were just describing runtime dependencies you might want to install, which we don't have any. So you know what? We're just going to do that because yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. They were just saying extra build dependencies, like that's where you would install them. But the bigger problem is we have some we have a rogue file somewhere on our file system. If you look here, it it's saying there's 22 gigs here, roughly 22 gigs. I don't know where. All of this is just Rust. And so every single time we do Docker build, it copies all of this over, and it's copying something very large. So we need to uh, uh, one second. Actually, maybe let's do du here dash human readable. That's going to give us this. And we want to. What's the other commands to du? Can we group this by folder? No, du help. I feel like there's a good way. Human readable. I just want it to. I just want it to give me the size of the directories. I don't want every single file. Wait, okay, I don't know why I can't figure this out. List size of. This is what I want. Why is this not working? Gosh dang it. SH. S. Oh, summarize. That's I was missing the word summarize. That was a little too summary. No. I want you to summarize all. I had the summary. I want all the folders in here. Okay. Well, we'll do this one at a time. We'll do this one at a time. This is fine. We could solve this with xargs, but that's feels like more work than just. My goodness. We have a couple gigs of something here. This is not the way to do this. 17 gigs in Target. What? How? Okay, one. This is weird because that means there's still like 5 gigs wandering around somewhere. We'll look into this, but I don't know where the the other 5 gigs are? Oh, you know what I bet it is? It's in. Did we try Monolith? Yeah, no, we did. My guess is the Twitch listener service because we built that individually before. Yep. Called it. Nailed it. All right. Now why? Let's do a Docker ignore of the targets. We should already have a git ignore for target. Yeah. So we're not checking those in at least. I get that they can get pretty. I've never actually run into this problem with it getting so big. I didn't realize Docker or Rust build was so. I guess it pulls in a lot of code. So yeah. Let's do a Docker ignore. All right. All right, Docker ignore. That's a. So I guess we'll just do it the same way we did, like this. And we'll do this just to make sure it gets the main level one. And let's see if that works now. Nope. We're still getting gigs. Okay. 827 megabytes is way better. We still have some extra room somewhere, but the target's fixed a majority of it. Had to use Docker ignore before with projects that had like other stuff in it, but learned a lesson today. Do not ignore the Docker ignores. That's actually a good like YouTube short. Let me think about that. All right. While that is this is potentially dangerous. I'm not sure we want our Docker to do that. We'll have to think about that. Oh no. Oh, that's not what I meant at all. Hopefully that doesn't screw anything up. All right, while that's going, one thing that we can do is we do have some bad code to clean up. For sure. There's these yellows. Actually, we might be able to just get Rust to clean these up for us. We'll see how many we can get Rust to clean up for us, and then. Yeah, see, we have a few. I don't know what 4. That's not too bad. It looks gross when you're compiling on stream, though. Especially when it balloons to like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. The worst thing about this is it puts this down with like number 73. And sure, that's the line number, but it looks like you had 73, and it's only like 11. Cool. Now we have a container. All right, so we have our Docker file. Now we need deployment files to deploy this to Kubernetes. I think we could do better on our ignore. So we ignored all targets, but there's also other cruft that, like, we could ignore everything in front end, honestly, because the front end is not getting built into a container. We could actually containerize the front end. We could write a container for the front end, but yeah, probably not. I'll probably just run this. It runs on Wasm, which we could try to run because Docker is starting to support Wasm. We could try to do that. We could try to do the Wasm front end here on Docker on the Mac Mini. That's something for another day, though. All right. Okay, if this is going to run on my local cluster here, I'm not going to expose it to the internet, so I don't have to worry about making Istio virtual service for it. So all I need to do, if I'm running it locally, is create a load balancer service for it and a deployment. Right, yeah, I think that's what we'll start with. So we'll create the deployment really quickly here. Let's actually rename. I usually just like start with a base Nginx image. We'll make this an image of let's see, we will make it Twitch alerts, and the image. We haven't actually pushed this to Docker. We'll do that in a second. Twitch alerts. Parse error. Oh, we need to actually give it a file to put out to. There we go. Cool. All right. So this looks pretty good. What we are going to need to do is give this secrets for all the secret bits, which I'll have to give to it. So you'll have your Twitch OAuth, which will actually have to be updated. Also, like the keys to the API service or for the AI service. I keep wanting to say API with that, but okay. Good basic one though. And then let's do that again. Actually, what is, let's see. Okay. We want a load balancer. I think we're pretty good. Yep. It's actually pretty good that I need to do this more often. I don't. So I don't remember to do it very often. Deployment. Let's see. Unknown. Shorthand flag O and O. Create service. What? What? Oh, okay, 1 second. Let's. Mistyped client. Fair enough. Fair enough. At least one TCP port. Okay, so port. Yeah, let's just do 80, 80, whatever. Okay, well. It's not just TCP. Okay, just TCP. Like I said, I need to make them this way more often. It's nice because it writes a lot of the YAML for you, so you don't have to go look it up. But if you remember the command, there we go. All right, close enough. Then all we have to do is I gotta call Docker login. I'm gonna have to do cone of silence, sorry, because I gotta log into Docker so that we can push this to Docker. And then, ooh, you know what? I was going to run this locally, but I don't necessarily have. Dry run is cool only if I can remember all the options, which is what I run into. Now, generally, what I have to say is that the options are fairly well documented. If you remember that this exists, this create, and you can do this with the O YAML dry run, you can just ask it for the options. You create load balancer -- help, and it's going to give, you can do. You can do this, and it's going to give you a lot of the options that are there. Obviously, it gives you dry run, but yeah, it also gives you like the ports and whatnot. So it's fairly good. Now, my question here, I haven't gotten storage. I was going to do this here. I haven't gotten storage completely worked out. And I don't want anybody's. You know what we have to do? If we're going to do this, we might as well do it right. We need to actually run a database to back this. Right now, it just writes to an SQLite database. And that's fine as long as that database was being backed up somewhere. So there are two things we could do. We could Linode. I believe what we could do here. Code of silence. Okay. What we could do is we could go to Linode here and do I believe we can do a database. We can do a Postgres database here and have the local one synchronize the database to here. I think. Let's see. Gross, Postgres. Yeah. So I think there's a way to synchronize to here pretty easily. Or we could just run it all here. We could create a Kubernetes cluster here and just have it saved here. Okay, now I have to think about it. Now that we've decided to run this the correct way, I'm not entirely sure. Well, while we're thinking on that, let me know if you have an idea. Let's get back on to working on Eddington. We got some good work done, and we need to press forward. I don't know that I'm going to be able to work much on it tonight. I have other plans tonight, so yeah. All right. So, let's go ahead and open that up. The database is though, before we go, we could always just spin up a database up here, a Postgres, and then connect to it from my local. That would be saving stuff would take a while because it would have to go to the cloud. And usually I think your application should be close to your database, not the person using it, because that's what makes sense. But really we only save a very little amount to it. So that actually might not be terrible for a little while. I need to work on this app a little. I need to work on this. Because the other thing that I'm thinking of is we don't have a great database schema. We're not saving everything that we need to a database. I mean, this is our database. Not the greatest. Not the greatest. My hope and goal is like this is like the proof of concept application for Eddington. If Eddington can take this and deploy it as microservices with a database backing it, like this is then super cool. This is like the coolest thing ever. But that's a while off. So we need to host it before that's going to happen. But let's work on Eddington now. Go. Docker, ignore Docker file, deployment, service. Yes. Container deployment. Cool. All right, I was working on dev experience. So let's start from the ground up and build this sucker, get it running, and play with it locally. One thing that I think I need to integrate is Dex, which I haven't installed yet. Haven't installed Dex. So what will be useful with Dex is while I'm going to use Ori, if Dex is the thing in the deployment that's communicating with everything, you should be able to plug in your authentication provider, whatever. I think we'll see how it works. This thing. But we'll see. All right. Let's see. Let's get our cluster running. If you're on Linux, now if you're on a Mac, you might need to work on this, and I'll accept pull requests for it. But if you're on Linux, you can just run start dev, and it should start your dev for you. Now let's see our tilt file. Now the one thing is we could do this exactly like production would do it, which would be through um, Argo. So we could just like run Argo and then have Argo run our application. But that kind of breaks the beauty of Tilt because Tilt will hot reload these things. So we'll do it with Tilt for right now. Now I think one thing that this won't do, let's see, is it building our API? Let's see, API, deploy, beautiful. All right. I almost typed cargo. Then we can just do tilt up. And now we should expect the API service to fail. Yes, because it doesn't have an API key that it needs. But that's not why it failed. That is not, it failed building the container. Perfect. We love, it failed running go mod tidy. Cannot assign requested address. Let's just try retrying that. Cannot assign requested address. That seems a little weird to me. We're just going to retry that one. Yeah, okay. So it passed this time. That one felt a little weird. Now we expect it to fail while running, right? I guess not. I have a question. Does tilt respect.env files? Because if it does, then I understand how it worked. If it doesn't, I don't know how it worked. Right, because, okay, so the kube config should work because we're doing an in-cluster kube config. We can actually write something out to this effect just so that we know. But then, if we look at the marketing controller here, we need this SendGrid API key, which only exists if you use my .env. Which I'm guessing it does. So let's actually, should I just learn Zellage right now? My friends have told me that that's what I should learn because I need to not use tabs. And they say I literally look like a noob using tabs in a terminal. And I'm like, good riddance, because that's what I am. All right. What was I doing? I forgot. I went on the. Oh. One second. I got a cone of silence. Cone of silence. 1 second. I don't know where my .env file is because I'm wondering how this worked, how it had the right environment variable. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I had one at one point because when I was testing the marketing API, I had to have a .env file. But it's gone missing. And then I was like, well, maybe VS Code is handling or hiding it because it's a .env file. But now my file system is not showing it. So how would it get? You know what? To test this, let's just do this. Let's instead of doing this, let's actually just test it. Let's go into Postman over here. And send this. You know what? I need a cone of silence because I will sign into SendGrid. We'll post a new email. We'll see if it shows up, and we'll watch the logs. Two-factor authentication, always fantastic. Oh wait, I did that wrong. Ugh. All right, now. I don't know where I'm typing that in. I was typing my my code somewhere, not in the right window. Oh well. It's used. It's used. Okay. All right. Now we're on a dashboard. We can go to marketing over here. We can go to contacts. All right. So we have our list of contacts, which all we have done is test.test.com. And so we're going to go over here, not here, here. We're going to send an email testing, and this is going to just be Merrick at testing.io. All right. And this is going to 8080. I believe that's where we exposed it to. Tilt will change this default and we'll map localhost 9000 to port 9000 in your. Wait. Maybe we're doing it to 9000, maybe 8080. Not entirely sure because this is actually the first time I'm running it in Tilt. So we'll try 8080. That didn't work, so it's 9000. It's 9000. All right. Internal server error. This was kind of what I was expecting. Let's check out those logs. TLS files. Oh. That's actually not what I was expecting. So, TLS failed to verify certificate. SendGrid's certificate? Verified by Amazon. That's a little weird. All right. Why is api.sendgrid.com? That's not the error I was expecting. Let's try again. Come on. Different error. Nope. Same error. Let's check out that code. It's pretty simple code. To be honest, it's not as good of code as I was initially trying to get it to be. Because initially I wanted it to like put it in a marketing list, but that was not working per their own spec. So all I did was basically this right here, a post to email subscriber, which just basically adds that post here. Let's see. This. This is all it is. All right. Every once in a while, I just gotta try it again. Now, this worked, what? Was it yesterday when we sent one? This worked. Can we just verify this, this right here? Let's see. It seems to be correct. This is weird. This one is verified by GoDaddy. And this one is verified by Amazon. It's kind of, that feels sketchy to me. Does anybody else get sketchy feelings from that? But the fact is, they're both verified. We could dig it and see if dig comes up with anything. Let's try that. Up, up. I used shift. Okay, I don't remember off the top of my head, but you can validate TLS certificates with dig, I believe. Or maybe not. Yeah. I don't want to do that. All right, that's too much work. The browser's doing it for me. Verified by Cloudflare. That's a good one to have verified by. You know what? Like, if you go here and you're like, oh, who is this secured by? Google Trust Services. Not as great. Not as great. It is a Cloudflare cert. All right. So let's just try it again. I know that this is beating a dead horse, but I feel like something's amiss. Wait, where's my did I get out of it? I might have gotten out of my tilt. Did I? No, don't kill that. No. Okay, it's on a random port, not 3000. Let's see. Let's see. It is complaining about this post. Is the certificate signage about the email? Like, does it not like the email? Because I don't want it to care about the email. I kind of don't think I care if you give me a garbage email. But let me cone of silence and try a real email really quickly. Yeah, same thing. Same thing. Cool beans. Hmm. Well, then, what do we do here? What do we do? I guess we can just run it locally and see if it does the same thing. That'll be a little easier. Let me restart this. Send that. We know it's getting through. What we need to do I'm just going to I'm not going to do all of that. Let's just make sure that this I'm pretty sure this is where it's we're not getting this, but I'm pretty sure it's right after this in here. So we'll just also do request failed. Yep. All right. And then the cool thing is Tilt will go ahead and rebuild that automatically for us, which is pretty nice. All right. We'll go ahead and resend our request. Internal service error. Finished with error. So perfect. That is what's happening. All right. I guess my next thing to try is to just run it locally. Oh. Now it's on 8080, unfortunately, so we'll just switch this over to 8080. 8080, and send that. What? Now, did it successfully send? Let's send something to test at bob.io. And let's see if it's actually there. I don't think that it is. So it's claiming success. Maybe it just takes some time. Let's give it some time to show up here. They might not really care about real time, to be fair, to be honest. That might not matter to them that it's been a little while. Let's do another one. Merrick at bob.ao. Done. All right. Not working, or their service is really, really, really slow. Could be. I feel like this is plenty of time at this point. Now this is interesting. Failed. What TLS cert is it talking about? Why would running in a container cause this? Maybe it just doesn't like our... Oh, maybe our key is actually a TLS something or other, and it's failing to verify what we pass up. That this is like how it says you're not authenticated. Not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure how... Oh, wait a second. I think these are failing. Oh, these are failing. These 100% are failing. I forgot. I don't like these. I get why people do this. I don't personally like it. Don't send me back a status code of 200 because your request worked when it's actually a 400. Now, interesting here, we're getting a 500. So, this were unauthenticated, which is fine because, like I said, I don't even know where the .env was because it wasn't there. This still confuses me because it's different. Let's Google this. See if it's Googleable. Googleable. This is not at all. Great. Great. Perfect. Okay. Well, let's see here. Why? Why does Skiff failed to verify? It's not mutual TLS, so they're not verifying my certificate. All right. Another cone of silence. I'm gonna look up the key. We're gonna get them a key. We're gonna get a actual environment variable set up. And how do I want to do this? I think I'm just going to put it in, let's see. Give me just a second. I'm just going to create a secret from a SendGrid key. Try not to leak it like I might have last time. They were a little touchy about that. Yeah. I was actually kind of impressed. They caught that I leaked it. What service? SendGrid. All right, now let me actually make that. Send grid API key. Yes. Cool. Cool. All right, that's in a file. Now I really should make a secret out of that really quickly so we can just apply that to Kubernetes clusters whenever we're doing that. So I will really quickly Okay. Just working with the secret really quickly. Sorry about this. Let's see. Create generic secret. What are we creating a generic secret of? This would be. All right. I think. I've done most of the dirty work. I think it's mostly done. The last thing that I have to do is make sure I go close all the things that are displaying my API key. So let me really quickly make sure that I'm not going to leak anything when I go and yeah. Let's look through here, close that. This will be all right. I think that. I think that is that. Oh nope, nope. not quite. All right, get off there. Cool. Okay. Whew. That's all done. Nothing showing on any of these. Any there? No. Okay. There we go. Uncone of silenced. I need an emoji for that. All right. This is what I was working on. Let's say this will be send grid API key. You know what? I actually have to code silence because I think I did this as secret. And the key is secret. What is the name that I gave it? That's what I don't know. Mr. Fuzz, how are you? How are you? Now, I will have to warn you. Do not follow this channel just yet. And the reason is we have this fantastic tool that we created. And the fantastic tool is we listen to our own Twitch events and then we actually generate really cool Twitch alerts based off of those. And we happen to break it just recently. So if you follow, you won't get your AI generated Twitch alert custom message. So I make a custom message for every single follower. So yeah, don't hit that follow button just yet because I gotta fix it. I gotta fix it. We're kind of stuck in a conundrum. We've never actually really made a full deployment of it. It's just kind of, I got it working, and then we've worked on Eddington. And I'm going to explain Eddington to you because you were talking about operators, and the only one that I can think of off the top of my head is the one that I'm currently working on, which is open source. And yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about that really quickly. We have this idea. Well, okay, I'll rephrase it. I have this idea. And we have a bunch of stuff describing the idea. But the basic idea, I was thinking about it 6 months ago that I was like, I love infrastructure as code. I absolutely love infrastructure as code. And then I was like, you know what? I hate infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as a code is a crutch that we've been using for years and years and years because of the real problem. The real problem is there should be no infrastructure as code, and it should be auto infrastructure. Basically, what I'd like to do is you have an application, and the infrastructure you need is stood up to support that. So for example, and let me draw this out for you here. For example, now I realize that in this scenario, in this concept, that infrastructure is still created and somebody has to manage this. So we're actually making the null cloud, which is going to host and run this, but it's an open source project as well, so you can run it yourself. So you could go to nullcloud.io. Don't worry, we actually have a new one that's coming up at the end of this week. This is going to be much more beautiful, that I'm working on right now. But it's there and it works. But anyways, the idea behind it is this. You have an app and you want to run it. Now let's say you're even doing microservices. So let's say you have two services. So we'll say service 1 and service 2 here. And let's say instead of direct communication, you actually want to have a message queue. Let's just say that you'd like to have this thing put a message on some sort of message queue. Now, I'm giving you the long-term plan. There is a plan for what we'll have at the end of July, which is not everything that you have here. But yeah, like I said, there's a plan for this is kind of long term, maybe end of this year, maybe we'll see. We'll see how things go. And let's say service 2 also wants to have a database, so you're gonna have a DB here. And in the classical infrastructure as code, so we'll say this is a Postgres DB here. And then in the classical sense, you're going to need something to expose your service to the internet. So, you'll have load balancers. You could have ingress. You could have whatever. Another thing, if you're having multiple services like this, you probably need some logs, some log aggregation here. And yes, I do have a point, Mr. Fuzz. If you're wondering what my point is, I'm getting to it. You're going to need to have some sort of log aggregation thing here. So we'll do logs here. And then, this is starting to get a lot of stuff. And really, you just wanted to deploy these two things. You wrote code for these two things. And now you're spending more time writing infrastructure as code to, for this, you're going to need Prometheus. We'll put Prometheus down here. I can never spell Prometheus, so I'm going to write a P. That's Prometheus. And then Grafana is going to sit here. Grafana. And then, you know what? You're going to also need probably Loki. Again, and this is what happens every single time. You spend so much time on all of this crap when this is what you wanted. Actually, you don't even want this. This message queue is out of what you want to do. This message queue is not what you want to do. And so you think of the clouds, and the clouds say, well, sure, we have a managed Postgres database. It's managed. All you have to do is manage it with infrastructure as code. So you have to go in here and you have to, if we're talking about AWS, we're going with we have some RDS instance. I'm gonna just say infrastructure as code here. And then maybe they have a managed Grafana, but you still have to do managed Grafana through IAC. IAM is then also a nightmare for access to all of these things, your ingress and whatnot. Sure, they have ingress, they have stuff for logs, but you have to actually manage all of those. So what the idea behind the null cloud and the project on GitHub, if you're wondering, is GitHub, the null channel, Eddington. If you know what the Eddington number is, it might make sense to you, but if you don't, go look up the Eddington number. We needed a code name. This is the code name that we've picked. The idea behind the Eddington is this. You write service 1 and service 2. You go into the null cloud dashboard and you give the repo for service 1 and service 2 and say to make a deployment. Service 1 and Service 2 have code that uses a message queue, so a message queue is created for you. Service 2 has a code that reaches out to a database. It creates a database for you and is managed that way. So there's a lot of stuff that has to go on here. All of this logging stuff is done for you. So you don't have to create a new Kubernetes cluster with a new Loki, new Grafana, new whatnot. This is all deployed out there with your application. All of this just goes out with your application automatically. Ingress goes out with your application automatically. Hey, Monda. Yeah, I like Loki too. I think Loki's pretty cool. So the idea is that it's auto infrastructure. It's not infrastructure as code. It's auto infrastructure. I don't know of a better term for it. We need somebody in marketing to come up with a better term for our auto infrastructure that knows how to spell Prometheus. Prometheus. Yeah, I can never do it. Prometheum. Thanks, Google, for making me feel better by just coming up with a completely different word. All right, whatever. I should know how to spell Prometheus. I get it. I don't. Okay. So this is kind of what we're doing. Now, step 1 here. That's the idea. It should be the best. So one of the things that why I was thinking of this, one of the reasons is we created this Twitch alert, the Twitch alerts that don't work right now. And one of the problems with Twitch alerts was it's a single application, but to deploy it, it was going to require a database. It was going to require, ingress. It was going to require all this stuff. And it's just a single stupid little application. And yet, for that application, I was going to spend as much time on its deployment as I was going to on actually writing the stupid little application that just uses machine learning to generate a new message for a follower. So I was like, this kind of, it's not too bad if you have like an entire team, but even then, I think developers would prefer to work on something that just allows them to work on their application. So I think, this would be really targeted towards developers and or people trying to get a proof of concept out and or people that are trying to have a small team, but want it to be able to scale. So that's the other thing is, I'm not going to say that at the beginning this will let you reach Facebook scale, but in theory, it should let you get to Facebook scale eventually. So one thing, there is Firebase. I don't know if you've ever heard of Google Firebase. Google Firebase is a little bit similar, but there's a lot of differences. One, Firebase 100% locks you in. This is open source. You can take it wherever you like. Two, Firebase has hard scaling limits at very few. Like when I say scaling, I don't even mean Facebook scaling level. I mean like 10,000 users, like that heavily use your app. Firebase starts to melt down and is very expensive. This should really, if you run it yourself, would just cost you whatever it costs to run these things. But yeah. Are you gonna do it using Socket? I don't know what you mean by Socket. Sorry. You mean like Socket.io, like WebSockets? You know my history with WebSockets. It's not great. just for you, Mr. Fuzz, we had a stream where how we display it to the front end, I have no idea. I have no idea. Well, I haven't thought about how we get. So, step one, Mr. Fuzz. Mr. Fuzz, step one. And that's what we're working on. And this is where we have a Kubernetes operator. Step one is what we're working on right now. So we have and probably I like I said, I haven't gotten to that far yet. Step one that we want to do here is we want to be able for you to give us a repo. Give us a repo. And us to deploy it. Deploy and expose repo. So what I mean by this is we're going to containerize it. So as long as it's an application we can containerize, which is like an Express, a Node, Ruby, whatever we can easily containerize. If you have a complicated containerization method, you'll have to make it a container yourself. But if it's something that we can make a container easy enough, we're going to make a highly performant container, and then we're going to expose that container. That's what's going to be hopefully at the end of July. You're going to be able to log in. It's going to be deployed. Log in and pick a repo, a public repo, and we'll deploy a container for you and expose it to the internet. That's kind of step one. We'll prove out that works. And how that is done here is we actually have this container runner. And basically, this is actually a bad name. I need to rename it. This is the operator here. And what it does is it reads these manifests. We can look at the API really quickly. We basically made these null applications, which, again, it's the null cloud. Naming's difficult. So we have these null application types, which just basically describe an application in our sphere. So everybody's going to have their own namespaces, namespace and resource groups. And so these will get deployed into them. So when you go and create something, it's going to have a name. This microservice spec is going to have a name, image, CPU, memory, storage, and routes. So the different routes that you want to be able to be accessible to the public. And so this is the basic spec of one, what you're able to provide. Yeah, and so this actually works. This operator works. I say works. It doesn't update yet. It creates the basics stuff that we need. It has work to be done, but that's what it does. So then we have an API service that sits out there that speaks JSON and REST, and you can see here that if you go to our application controller, there is a new application right here, app post. So this is posting a new application, and all it does is it builds that custom resource definition. Right now I don't use like the memory and CPU That's all just templated out for right now because we're really new. So again, these are the types of things that you can do. But you can see that we create this deployment here that is literally just a representation of this right here. So this name, CPU, memory, whatnot, all this is right here. And so this API server is literally just posting this to the Kubernetes cluster as we want to create it. So we have our namespace. Like I said, these are just hard coded right now. But yeah. So I don't know if that is interesting to you. It's a operator. It's not a standalone operator. Maybe we could make it standalone where like it in of itself does something that people would want. As of right now, I don't know that it does, but it does something useful. That's what you asked. So I will make a YouTube video by the end of July explaining and announcing the null cloud, but I'm going to actually do like I'm actually working on it currently because I'm trying to like explain what the end goal is, the auto infrastructure, that type of stuff. All right. So, and feel free to ask questions or whatnot. Should I really quickly? One second. Cone of silence. Cone of silence. I'm cone of silencing for just a quick second. Should I? Now I can. Not that you need to, but if you do have the desire to follow, let me know. I'll run it on my PC locally so that you can get your custom message and see kind of what it's about. I'm probably going to work on it tonight. It's not fun to work on it on stream because I'm just making deployment files and I kind of have a decision to make about how we're going to deploy the Twitch events. But I can run it locally just so that you can see. It's actually pretty fun. We do some pretty fun stuff. All right, let's get back into this really quickly. Let's get back into debugging what we were debugging. We were debugging the secrets, and we were getting... So all of this, we were deploying with Tilt. I don't know if either of you guys have used Tilt, Monta, or Mr. Fuzz, but Tilt will run... It's actually really cool, and it's actually running the operator. So this is the operator right here. And the API service. So what I did is this is the whole all you have to do is when you first start, all you have to do is call if you're on Linux. If you're not on Linux, you can use this as a template for what you have to do, but I don't know exactly what you have to do because I'm on Linux. You just run hack start dev. I'm not going to do this because it creates you a kind cluster. You need kind and CLP PTL installed. So if you vim this hack start dev, you need this CTL PTL right here because what this does is gives you a local container registry, which is really, really, really nice. And otherwise, it just sets up the cluster with Istio and Calico, which is the two things that we rely on. And it also sets up the kind cluster so that we can expose the Istio ingress to your local machine. So then once that's installed, all you have to do is do tilt up. And tilt starts running everything. So it's going to run all of these things. And then the really, really, really nice thing about tilt here is that not only does it build the image the first time, we'll let this build and start running. if I didn't actually break it. There we go. So it's up and running. But what you can see here, which is really nice, is let's say we go in here and make a change to something in the code. So we were actually working on the marketing, because one thing I would like to do is on that website that I showed you, Mr. Fuzz, is actually have a way for somebody to sign up with their email if they're interested. And so I have this marketing endpoint, and we were messing with this. But let's say we want to get rid of this. It's a dumb log message. We were just messing around. We delete it, we hit save, and now check it out. It's actually rebuilding the container for us. So it's like a dev experience inside of Kubernetes. And unfortunately, because it's a operator and this API service actually has to write Kubernetes files, it needs access to a Kubernetes cluster. So my application kind of has to run inside Kubernetes. So this is really convenient, because now I am deving on, it's now redeployed, which is awesome. Very, very, very convenient. All right. So I was looking into a problem right now because we were sending this. Let's see. This was port 9000 when it's running in Kubernetes. Internal server error. And you can see here we get actually the logs from the containers as they're running. Very nice dev experience if you're very tied to Kubernetes like this is. So, this, I have no idea what this is or why this is happening. So I'd love ideas here. So when we run it locally, just the API server locally, which we can do, we don't get this 509, this failed to verify certificate. And this is actually getting, so we make this call to SendGrid right here. And this is the thing that's failing. So it's printing it out right here. This is what's failing. And I don't know why inside of a container, this is failing to verify the certificate. I'm kind of stumped on this one. I figure it's something to do with the environment inside of Kubernetes, but I can't think of why. I've actually never seen this happen where, you know, and if you run it outside of a container, it doesn't have this issue. So I'm figuring it's DNS inside of my Kubernetes cluster, because it's always DNS inside of my Kubernetes cluster. But I can't rationalize where or why. But maybe this is just a boring problem and we should just move on, because actually I just need to think on it. I'm going to spin up a background thread on this one and we'll think on it and we'll move on to a different problem. Because yeah, this is kind of weird. Kind of weird. All right. Let's see. I am also exporting this, so you'll be able to make all the same calls if you clone the repository. So new application. All right. we were, if we look at application, this is what we were kind of working on. So this gets your resource group and your user context, but there's a couple problems with this. Is we've never actually added a user. So we get this user context here, but we do it with a user ID of 1. So one of the things that we need to do this week, probably tomorrow, is integrate with Ori, which we're using to manage our users. Integrate with Ori to get the actual user ID, because that's what we're going to use here instead of just this user ID. We're going to use Ori's user ID to query this data. And let's see. The other thing, man, that's also not super fun. I was going to do something fun since you joined, Mr. Fuzz. I need to install Dex, because instead of talking to Ori, I'd like all the things inside Kubernetes to talk to Dex and Dex talk to Ori. Now, I think the front end still talks directly to Ori, right? Yes, pretty sure. But for that way, anybody that wants to run it themselves, they just connect it to their authentication provider, and everybody just uses Dex. I think that's how we should do it. I want to getting started. Let's install this. Nope, I just want to run it inside of Kubernetes, right? There should be like man, maybe running this inside of Kubernetes is going to be more painful than I was hoping. Sweet, we can just piggyback on our etcd. I mean, this is effectively the same thing, but we'll probably just do the CRDs, because then we don't have to give it a connection and we can just piggyback. Auth code resource managed by Dex. Okay, so this is what we need to do. I'm going to have to read on this tonight. I might figure out how we'll do this, because I've never actually set this up. And then we can do this tomorrow, which actually probably is good. It's almost 4, so I got to go start helping with dinner. I don't know that I'll get to read tonight. Let's actually run the front end. Let's run the front end. I haven't done that recently, and the front end looks pretty sweet. Monta has been working on the front end, and it's pretty sweet. I'm not going to try authing. I do. My goal is this Friday, or maybe Saturday, having this exposed to the public world, because I think that would be pretty wicked sweet. We'll have to talk about how we want to actually serve the front end. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Much better than what we have right now. This button looks a little weird in big screen like this. I think it looks better not like this. Like, let's see, more like this. Nope, that's still the bottom part under here looks a little weird. I know that that's for like invalid email addresses, but I don't know. It looks weird without the please enter a valid email address. but looks pretty sweet. That's nitpicking. And the dashboard is coming along pretty well too. Actually, let's fix this. Vite view TS. Let's fix that. We'll go. Where do we fix that? I've never used view before. You know, I'm 19 years old, but I have a good background about all stuff like programming and Kubernetes. Can you tell me some structure of operator? Structure of operator, sure. We can walk over that. That will install VS Code web in side container when specified annotations are. I think this already exists, Mr. Fuzz. I feel like making an annotation with an operator that then deploys a sidecar with VS Code already exists. I feel like that is a thing, but sure. What you're asking to do is fairly straightforward. It's maybe a little tedious work, but easy. Let's talk about it. So if we're looking at a operator, Monta, we just looked at the front end. It looks pretty sweet. I think I already closed it, but we can look at it again. It's looking pretty sweet. All right, but let's talk about this operator. If you're wanting to talk about operator really quickly, what you're gonna want to do is, I have a video that I can share with you. But there are ways to listen for resources. So a lot of times as a operator, you listen to your own resources. So you listen to this null application spec. You listen for that to change, and then you figure out what you need to do. You missed it. We'll look at it again. We'll look at it again in just a second. It's looking pretty sweet. What you want to do with this application spec is you don't have to just listen for your own. So basically what you're saying here, you want to put Visual Studio Code web in a side container with a specific annotation for deployment or a container. Or I mean, you could just do deployment, or you could do a pod on a deployment. And so what you're going to want to do is listen to those resources. So we can go to our controller here. And basically what you want to do is, I don't have an example of it here, but when you're setting this up, you can see here, I am listening for null applications. Now, what you can do is you can listen for, so here you could do something like for, oh, there's already a dot, sorry, for, app.deployment. So the app is where deployments are. So if you don't know, this is one thing that trips people up. That's this right here. This is where the structure for deployments are. And now we would run anytime there was a deployment or an update to a deployment or anything like that. And basically all you would want to do then is on your reconcile function. So anytime there was an update to one of those, you would check its annotations. And if its annotations existed that had VS Code, you would deploy the VS Code to that deployment. If you checked it and it didn't have the annotation and VS Code was deployed as a sidecar, you would remove the VS Code sidecar, because that's how you would know that it was removed. So it's fairly simple and straightforward. Does that make sense? you don't have to just listen to your custom resource. Now, I will warn you that, like I said, there's a little bit of tediousness there, because when you update the deployment, the operator that looks at deployment is going to also run again, which means it could update it and you could run again. So you got to be a little bit careful. There's a little bit of nuance to that, but the concept of what you're asking there with the install Visual Studio Code web in a container, and when you apply a label, 100% pretty straightforward for an operator. I think we did this, didn't we? We did something along these lines at some point in time. I don't remember. So the other thing that you can do is you can ignore like the status. So like when you look at something like this, let's see. Oh, we are still, no, we're not running we're still running the front end. We'll look back at the front end. But when you're uh let's see, deployments. I think we have the API service here. So when you do a kget deployments API service YAML, and look at this. So this is basically what you would be getting. This is one thing that you can ignore, the status. You actually don't care if the last thing that was changed was status. And so you can start filtering some of these things. Where I say there was some tedium here was that you don't have to do that. You can ignore that, because if there was an update to the status, like the deployment made some change or something, there was you don't really care. Status doesn't really care. So you can ignore all of this. And this is where you filter your search for Kubernetes. So you don't actually run your reconcile loop all the time. You really only care if the spec changed, or things like that, or labels changed. Again, however you want to deal with it. That's definitely possible. Again, this is where I said there's a little bit of tedium involved, but the concept isn't difficult. Oh, it was in my comments. I was gonna say I feel like somebody I've talked about this has done this before, or talked about doing it. I feel like we did something really close to it. We did this on a stream. Somebody wanted me to do something with a label, and we did stuff with labels. I don't think we got the Visual Studio Code being deployed as a sidecar, but we did like half the work. We can look for the actual code. It's probably in one of these buried a long time ago. Yeah, I'd have to go look for it. I'd have to go look for it. We did something similar. Let's check this out though. This is looking pretty sweet. I have one comment that is maybe... This should hopefully be public by the end of the week. You can sign up for an email when the beta goes live later this month, hopefully. Again, hopefully. And the beta is going to be pretty beta, like pretty hard pre-alpha beta. That's what it's going to be called, the pre-alpha beta. Starting to sound like a sorority. But it looks pretty good. Nice work. I don't have the forward on Ori, so I didn't get that, so I can't log in. But when I can, we'll do that. But when I get that Ori set up, I will the CLI. The CLI wasn't logging in for me. I was having some problems with it. I don't know if I screwed up the install or whatnot. But yeah. The only thing that's maybe a little weird about the UI, and this is being nitpicky about the UI, is this extra space underneath. I know it's for like errors when or if they happen, but when it's looking just like this, it's a little bit of a weird concept where like there's just the extra space of a button. But I don't really care. It's way better than. Let me show you what is way better than. It's way better than this. So I'm being nitpicky, but also it doesn't matter. I'll go fix it later. You can fix it's fine. It doesn't matter for right now. It really doesn't matter. All right, so this is the most interesting thing. While this is running in Tilt or in Kubernetes, this fails. Oddly. While running here, it doesn't fail on the, what is it? The 509 certificate signed by unknown authority. I feel like it's something with how I've configured the Kubernetes cluster that Tilt is running in, but, or running it in. But I don't know why, because it's not mutual TLS, so it's not validating my stuff. It's validating their certificate. And we went through and validated their certificates, so like their certificates are actually solid. So it's probably my problem somehow, but I have to think on that. Yeah, see, watch this. And that's because of this, which again we don't get when running locally. So we're running locally, we can point to 8080. And when we're running on localhost, it works 200. Now, it doesn't actually work. This is actually a nuance for some of you newer, younger developers that you need to actually worry about when you're talking about. I generally take the stance that I return an error code if it doesn't work. Now, they don't. They actually return 200 even though the request didn't work. So they're returning a 200 because the request itself completed successfully. The error was that there's authorization required for this endpoint, and I didn't give the right authorization. So in the body of their message, they gave me another status code. This is the status code for why the message failed. Now, this is two lines of thoughts. I generally take the other one. I don't like this because I want to check the status code of the message, which the status of the message was 200. And that's because they responded, basically, which means, again, which is one of the things that you have to be careful with dealing with APIs. I know there's standards and whatnot, but there's disagreements on how to implement those standards. So with a company like SendGrid, they say that the message worked because we responded. And thus, any message where they respond, they send a 200. If it actually hits their service said it needs to be authorized, and so their service returned a 400 inside the body, which means catching this error is actually much more difficult. I don't like this, but it is a valid viewpoint. Yeah, it's a valid viewpoint. So yeah. This is more than this happens with more APIs than you would actually imagine. A lot of the times their API, their thing that you use to access them, hides this from you. So SendGrid's doesn't. So if you look at SendGrid's, SendGrid's API is garbage, because it doesn't even work how they tell you it should work. But it doesn't send, because here I'm checking for an error on the make request, and that's why it says that it worked, but it didn't work. The call worked, but that's all. Like I said, I don't adhere to this. My APIs will return a 400 then, instead of returning in the body. I don't like how that is. I'm pretty adamant against that. But I understand their words. Their words are that the response hit their services, and that so they're maybe more of a purist. And the reason is because they're saying that the response hit their server and the server responded to it, which that is an HTTP status code, and they're saying the HTTP was working. It didn't fail before it got there because, like on the TLS is returning a 500 status code because it never actually reached their service. So for them, and in their purity, they'll say that the status code, when it responds, is that of the HTTP. They themselves have more error codes outside of HTTP status codes. That's it. That's all. Like I said, I don't adhere to it, and I disagree, but they're maybe actually more purist than I am. I'm probably not a purist for most things. Okay. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I don't have a whole lot more time. It's almost dinner time, so I'm about to get going. What can we do in about 10-15 minutes? You're sending a request to their API, not debugging their infra. Oh, welcome to the wonderful world of APIs. Welcome. All right, we really need to work on our user services here. So in our API, we have this, and this is pretty much garbage. What we need to do is, and this is what we're going to do tomorrow. We have a lot of time tomorrow. I'm going to try to stream early in the morning and then later in the afternoon again. We have these users, and we really don't have any users. So basically what we need is when a user signs up from Ori, we need to generate a user in our system and then be able to correlate further requests. This is the user ID getting passed as 1 here, which is just wrong. And we need to set up Ori, but that's too much for right now. I guess that's like the next big thing that I need to do is get actual users in here. It's not too much more. Maybe that's it for me today. Maybe that's it. Tell you what, quick question. What would you like to see? Would you like to see the Twitch alerts deployed in another cloud, not my cloud, with a Postgres database backing it? Or would you like to see it on the same cloud that the null cloud, the same set of machines that are bare metal, piped all the way through, and have the SQLite database that's deployed with it being backed up to I think there's like a service that we can make that actually backs up that database. What would you guys like? Which way should we make this a poll? We'll make this a poll. We're gonna make this a poll. Better not be a tie this time. Get you guys' votes in correctly. I'm gonna make the poll really quickly. 1 second. Manage poll. New poll. SQL light on bare metal with backup or Postgres DB in cloud. SQL. All right, I'm expecting we're going to give 2 minutes. Better not be a tie again. Better not be a tie. We're going to view these results on stream. It's going to be a tie again because that's every single time I've done a poll now. It's been a tie. All right. All right. Wait a second. This isn't updating. I see a vote on one screen, not on this screen. Do I have to refresh it? I do have to refresh. That's horrifying. That's horrifying. I have to refresh that. All right. If somebody clicks the Postgres option just to screw with me, I will be very angry. All right. I'm calling it. We'll do the SQLite. We might be able to set that up tomorrow as well. I'm going to have to look up. I've never actually. Oh, somebody, you turd. Somebody's a turd. Somebody out there. Oh, there's our third vote. Russell, just in time to vote. Sweet goodness, you saved the tie. You saved the tie. So what we're going to do, probably, I'm going to try to do an early stream tomorrow morning while my kids are working on some school. So what we're going to do tomorrow morning is we're going to, Russell, what this all came up from was that my Mac Mini does not like, my Mac Mini A1 does not like running the Rust code for our Twitch alerts. I have struggled and had problems with it this entire time, and it's just refusing to work. And so what we need to do is actually deploy it. And so basically my question was, do we want to continue using SQLite, deploy it to the null cloud with like a stateful set, and save that SQLite database like as a backup somewhere else? I believe it was you that that stated there's like a backup service. I haven't read it. I'm going to read up on it tonight so that we can kind of fly through it a little bit. But we're just going to configure all of that tomorrow morning so that Twitch alerts runs continuously on a server instead of trying to run it on the Mac Mini. Wait. Why am I not pronouncing squirrel right? Where were you this whole stream? Would have been much better with you. You give me a lot more grief than everybody else does, which is fantastic. Actually, Russell, I was about to get going. I have a question for you because it's something I've never experienced before. Oh, you're good. You're good, man. There was something that I have never experienced before and wanted to see your thoughts on it. Because I've never seen it before. So when running locally, just on my machine, it doesn't have a problem. But when running inside Kubernetes, we're getting this failed to verify certificate 509. So this is calling the SendGrid API, and it's failing on calling the SendGrid API, which to me doesn't make sense because the SendGrid API certificate is valid. We've proven it several different ways, and if we run our application locally, it also works. This is not our certificate that they're failing on. So I've never seen this before. So we're gonna have to debug it at some point. I'm spinning up a background thread on this, but I know that you've also seen some stuff, so I didn't know if you had ever seen this before. Yeah. Does Node have? So it should, because it should just use mine, right? So if it's not using mine, because this node is on my machine, is because it's just running in kind, right? Not on Linux. Kind doesn't run on Linux. So if you do like docker ps, you'll see the kind node here. It's not a VM. Now on Mac it is a VM, 100%. But not on Linux. Let's Kubernetes kind. I guess won't the nodes just use the ones on the host though? I thought maybe they don't. Which would make sense. I think they okay. So we just need to install it in the container. And override it with the kind nodes. Okay, well, maybe we'll do that tomorrow as well, after we fix the Twitch alerts. Mr. Fuzz, you can follow, but if you want to refollow tomorrow after we fix the Twitch alerts, you can get your own custom message. Hopefully in a database that saves it. Well, that's what I thought the nodes would... Oh, but it is running its own node in a container though. So you're probably right. You're probably right. And then it's using that container, that node as a container, as a node. So yeah, I'll have to look. I'm sure somebody has done this. Okay. Well, I will look into this sometime tonight. Mr. Fuzz, thank you so much for the follow. Tomorrow, you can get your own custom generated one. I super appreciate it. Hopefully, we all learned something here. Hopefully, we have some fun while doing this. I do have to get going. I have to help make some dinner. And, tonight I don't stream on Tuesday nights. Tomorrow, I'm going to stream in the morning and then in the evening for the US people. The morning is probably going to be like 8 to 10 EDT, the Eastern Daylight Time, 8 to maybe 11. We'll see if I get on right at 8 though. That's gonna be early. But we'll stream some in the morning. We'll get some stuff done. Hopefully the morning section we'll get the Twitch alerts sorted out, and then in the evening, hopefully we get users for Eddington figured out, and hopefully Friday we wrap it all up and deploy it. All right. Anyways, thanks everyone. Have yourselves a fantastic night. Hopefully see you all tomorrow.